Okay, so let's get started. We're a few minutes late already. So we start with Luis Cristito. Okay, excellent. So you have 15 plus 5 and talking about production and propagation of secondary anti-nuclei. Okay.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to be present with all of you today. And I'll expose some results from my master thesis research at Instituto de Física, UNAM, mm, titled Production and Propagation of Secondary Antinuclei in the Galaxy. Oh. Ah, por favor. No. Ajá. I see. Thank you, thank you. Ajá. And the cosmic rays origin continues being an open problem, but we know that a good quantity of these particles are produced in very energetic astrophysical events, such as supernova explosions, supernova remnants, pulsars, among other cosmic ray sources candidates. The particles produced by these astrophysical sources that also arrive to the Earth without any perturbation are usually called primary cosmic rays. The particles produced by inelastic collisions of primary cosmic rays and particles of the interstellar medium are named, also by decay of unstable nuclei, are named secondary cosmic rays. And there exists a theory contribution which consists in the same secondary cosmic rays, but with an energy loss because of collisions. The energy spectrum of the cosmic rays is steep, and it follows a power law with some minor structures. In this figure, we can see the two regions where the slope of the spectrum change appreciably. The magnitude of the knee is between 10 to the 6 and 10 to the 7 GeV, and the ankle is between 10 to the 9 and 10 to the 11 GeV. It's considered that the cosmic rays below the knee are accelerated by supernova remnants shocks, between the knee and the ankle by other galactic source, and beyond the ankle by extragalactic source. The energetic region of our interest in this study is the one below the knee. A charged particle accelerated by supernova remnants and diffuse into the magnetic field of our galaxy. This turbulence is due to perturbations in the magnitude and the direction of the different magnetic fields created in the different regions of the galaxy. It is estimated that the travel times of cosmic rays through the galaxy are on the order of mega years. In fact, the escape time for cosmic lakes for cosmic rays is longer than travel time through the galaxy. The dynamics of propagation of cosmic rays in the galaxy can be solved from the transport equation. which considers the following terms. On the left side, we have the change in time of the function psi that describes the particle density per unit of momentum. On the right side, we have in the first term the source of cosmic ray, such as supernova resonance, nuclear reactions, etc. The second term corresponds to the diffusion part, where the diffusion coefficient is considered. The third term corresponds to the diffusive acceleration, where the coefficient diffusion in space and momentum space is considered. Here we have the velocity, the convection velocity. The fourth term corresponds to the energy losses. Here we have the momentum load due to interactions with the medium, and here we have the adiabatic momentum loads due to non-uniform convection. Finally, we have losses by fragmentation and radioactive decay. The Galprops open code solves the transport equation numerically in 2 and 3 dimensions. And it simulates the propagation of several species and the distribution of gamma rays at the same time. In the version 57, which was used in the present study, values for nuclei fragmentation cross-section were updated. Also include new cosmic ray source distributions. The simulation conditions for the present work consider a two-dimensional diffuse halo with cylindrical symmetry. The parameters were set according to Boschini et al. For version 57. Among these, we have the size of the galaxy, diffusion tensor, alpha velocity, among other parameters of physical processes and sources distributions. To verify the correct use of Galprop, we produce and compared different fluxes, such as the ratio boron over carbon, which is a relationship that tells us about grammage and diffusion of particles in the magnetic field of the galaxy. In the figure, the black line represents the local interstellar spectrum for this radio. The line red, the modulated spectrum, and the black markers, the data from NS02 experiment. The corresponding relative difference between this data is shown at the bottom. Another test that we did corresponding to the antiproton flux. And again, the black line represents the LIS spectrum. The red line, the modulated spectrum for this flux. And a reference, again, the black markers represent the data from AM02. The corresponding relative difference is shown at the bottom. As we know, like antinuclei has also been detected in cosmic rays, and it represents a very small fraction, less than 0.01% of the cosmic ray. So in a universe dominated by matter, the production of antinuclei could only be possible in nuclear interaction of cosmic rays with the interstellar medium, considering only standard model. This is secondary production. Wait. So we need use the Qualisens model. The Qualisens model is a simple model that postulates that, for example, an antideuteron can be produced if an antiproton and an antineutron are very close in the same phase space. In this way, for example, a primary accelerated proton which collides with an interstellar proton might produce a sequence of particles and antiparticles that could coalesce into here nuclei and antinuclei. In this way, the antideuteron spectrum can be estimated as follows. Here we have gamma is the Lorentz factor for each particle. The third derivative of n, in this case for antideuteron, in terms of the momentum, represents the differential yield for antideuteron per event. Here we have the Qualisens momentum that is a phenomenological quantity to have to be fitted by experimental data, to the experimental data. Okay, these collisions can be simulated with Monte Carlo generators to produce these pairs as a more realistic way to calculate antideuterons. Antideuterons are created from these pairs event by event. Under these conditions, if the center of mass momentum is less than the Qualisens momentum, the antideuteron is created. The results from simulation I compare to data, and the Qualisens momentum is determined from this comparison. In this case, the Qualisens momentum as a function of kinetic energy is around 80 NeV. As we know, the source term appears in the transport equation. In this case, for secondary source term can be written as follows. The most important part here is that the source term convolves the differential cross sections in terms of the kinetic energy with the flux of incident particles. From the discrete data generated by Monte Carlo, reported by the cited authors, we look for the differential cross section over a continuous interval of kinetic energy per nucleon. In order to obtain continuous values for the differential cross sections, we estimate again from the interpolation and compare with further data. Okay. With the previously information, we implemented this data in the Galprops code, and we for calculate the corresponding cross sections and the source term for antideuterons. In this figure, we have the different types of contributions by every type of, for each type of collision, proton-proton, proton-helium, helium-proton, helium-helium, and the total, no? As a reference, we have the data from Shukla et al. Finally, we implemented this data in Galprops and simulate the production and the propagation for antideuteron. In this graph, we have antiproton fluxes, local interstellar spectrum, and top of the atmosphere, AMS02 data, and the corresponding secondary fluxes for antideuteron. Again, Shukla is here for as a reference. Okay, in the search of antideuteron flux, we compare the corresponding fluxes with the sensitivities of these two experiments, AM02 and GAPS, which is planned for this summer, reported in the literature. Okay. As a conclusions, the latest CalPRO version 57 was validated using different fluxes, such as boron over carbon ratio and antiproton flux, comparing to experimental data. An interpolation of cross-section was performed based on Monte Carlo simulation by Shukla et al. An update of the antideuteron flux was performed, showing that is at least one order of magnitude below the sensitivity of AM02 reported by the literature. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Questions?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering if you assume that there's also nuclei interacting with so there's cosmic ray nuclei, if you expect to have an increase of the production with respect to what you computed because there's more protons available, or you would expect to have nuclear effects reducing the production. ¿Le puedo preguntar en español?
Sí, mejor.
Yeah.
Gracias.
Sí, la pregunta es si,
Sí, más o menos.
si incluyes núcleos, si esperarías un efecto, incrementa la producción o los efectos nucleares disminuirían la probabilidad de extraer.
O sea, en la simulación se incluyó núcleos.
En la fórmula que usaste para.
Para el source term.
Is that yeah, on the slide I think, yeah, where you compute the coalescence, the formula with the.
Aquí.
I think well, it's this one, but I think the previous one where you assume that. Yeah, do you expect this to be more if you have proton interactions versus proton nucleus interactions?
Sí, en el modelo de coalescencia, obviamente la producción debe estar correlacionada entre cada partícula. Por eso se usan los generadores de Monte Carlo, porque ahí se toman en cuenta las correlaciones entre cada partícula que conforma el par, ¿no? Que va a producir. Sí, el modelo de coalescencia lo toma independiente. Pero ya para más realismo se usa Monte Carlo, que ahí sí toman en cuenta la correlación.
Gracias.
Sergey?
Actually, I would reply to the previous question, which is really a good one. Once one has primary nuclei, typically for antiprotons, gammas, whatever, one applies so-called nuclear enhancement coefficient. And this is essentially based on the superposition model, because you have one single nucleon from the nucleus producing something, you just count how many interact, you get wonderful formula. Tricky thing, for antideutrons, this doesn't work, because typically you produce your proton and antiproton by different incident nucleons. So things are really involved. If you imagine, if you're able to go to extremely high energies, in the superposition model, in the standard nuclear enhancement, you get A enhancement proportional to the mass of the nucleus. For deuterons and antideutrons, asymptotically, it would be A squared because of picking up two. But things are much more complicated because you have huge threshold defects. This formula actually, it's a beautiful one. People use it for edges, but near threshold it really fails. And then just a small advertising over the past couple of years, we developed a new approach to coalescence together with Mikhail Kaheris and Jonas Jemslat. Actually, Jonas was the main driving force. In this formula, you have your P0. Nice. But the problem is, once you consider different reactions, you have different P0s, you lose predictive power. In our approach, we have one single motivated parameter, which is universal. And the spectra of antideutrons, antitritons for different reactions, also for primary nuclei, are tabulated and available in the last update of a FRAC from past year. And actually, to the best of my knowledge, they're already implemented in GalPro.